And a lot of fans did. And a lot of fans actually had questions for us over at our community page at myworldpod.com. So if you haven't already, and you got a question for Jeff, that's the place to do it. Myworldpod.com. Francis Reyes says, knowing in hindsight, now as the pay per view after this was Bash at the Beach, do you look back at the Great American Bash differently than you did back then? I mean, because you didn't have the context of what was to come, right?
No, obviously not. That's, I mean, Francis, thank you. Appreciate the question and support always. Um, I think I hit the nail on the head. For me, my mindset was we had um, Stockdale syndrome, or what is it? Where
Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was the culture and environment we were in that we got paid. We showed up in Nitro and Thunder and pay per view, and the house shows were cut back at this point, and we just kind of okay, how are we going to make the best of this situation? In 12 months' time, we had, I mean, I came in October of '99, and Bill Bush did my deal. But so was Bill my boss? Not really. JJ Dillon was kind of on the fringes on that, but I didn't know if because of him and my dad's relationship, I truly didn't know, is he going to be a supporter of mine or not? That's a whole nother set of circumstances to go back there in that time. And then Russo was there. And then you immediately knew, okay, Kevin Sullivan, Bischoff, there's rumblings. He's still under contract. But then, oh, okay, then you have, we didn't call him at this time, the Millionaires Club. You still had Hogan and 7 or 8 other of those guys that were around. And look, they're kind of going to do what they want to do. I've talked about it over and over and over. Just the difference in the two organizations. You knew where the buck stopped at WWF. You were clueless to that, and so when you are walking into work in that week after week, month after month, TV after TV, the expectation is, okay, there's got to be some give and take, but you got to have to kind of protect yourself the most you can with whatever kind of leverage you may or may not have. Dog eat dog world. But the underlying theme of all of it is don't get, you can't get your expectations up. And none of us did. None of us thought that, okay, man, this is it, boys. We're righting this ship, because we just knew the tools weren't there. We didn't probably say it out loud, but I think we all understood the tools aren't here to build this out.
Let's do a few more questions and then we'll put a button on this one. This one comes to us from Bryant. He says, when you face off against your pay per view opponent so many times leading up to the pay per view, does it devalue the match? How do you keep them engaged when it's your 4th match in 2 weeks?
All story. And if the story's not there, it's diminishing returns. If the story is there, you're, and look, the story wasn't there. So I'm not trying to, Brian, appreciate your question, but I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, but if done correctly, 4 matches in 2 weeks may be impossibility. But I'm of the mindset, if you can tell stories and they did it. So, I mean, that's how the business was back then. You have to build. If you can up the stakes and make match 2 mean more than match 1 by the finish you gave in match 3 bigger than 2 by the finish you gave in 2, and so on and so on. That can be done. And I think there's the most simple analogy is, we're in basketball, NBA playoffs, or hockey's. Okay, they're going to play each other 7 games. All right, well, why would we want to watch game 7 if we've watched 6 games in a row? Oh, wait, this is for all the marbles. So if you can build the anticipation and the intrigue by the prior matches, then the stakes go up. It also can work.
Johnny Sanders wants to know, was this the worst creative you've ever been a part of?
We've kind of hit on it, Johnny. It's right there at the top of it. And I mean, creative is subjective, but subjectively speaking, this is certainly right up there at the top.
Shane Cooney wants to know, What did Jeff think of Hulk working so far down on the undercard of the pay per view? He was either main event, semi made, or third from the top for most of his WCW run. Here he's booked below Ric Flair and David Flair, Vampiro and Sting, Jeff and Nash. Did Jeff think that positioning helped or hurt Hulk and Kidman, or did that not matter?
I think when the era of monthly pay-per-views entered, and I may be off, but I think the positioning on the card became much less important. I think prior to, when there was the big four, the big three pay-per-views or whatever it may be, it was the top two, maybe three matches that sold. When you went to monthly pay-per-views, I never looked at like this card you're particularly talking about. I didn't really look at Hulk being fourth down on the card. You're just not going to put Hulk.
Well, hang on now. Let's just mention this.
Okay.
At the time, there was a big conversation amongst internet wrestling fans and certainly in the newsletters. WCW needs to push the younger guys. They're not giving the younger guys an opportunity, blah, blah, blah.
Huge conversation.
Now, there's a big moment in time, this whole Kidman Hogan thing, and it's been discussed and beat up a bunch because a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, well, Hulk will show them he'll work with Kidman. But respectfully, and I don't mean for this to sound shitty, I'm just trying to be honest, and this is the only way I know to phrase it. Rather than bringing Kidman up to the main events with Hulk Hogan came down to Kidman's level down the card. I think that sort of is the exact opposite of what the internet wrestling community wanted. We wanted to see some of those younger talent get an opportunity to move up the card, not necessarily some of that top talent, quote unquote, coming down. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but you're spot on. But at the end of the day, maybe give it, always try to go down two roads. Do I go down the Hollywood route or a sporting route? But there's no way Hulk Hogan in what's the top movie house? A Warner Brothers movie, a Paramount movie, whatever it is.
Marvel.
He's Marvel. Okay, if Hogan's in a Marvel movie and the lead and all that, and then the next year he comes out on a streaming movie special, just kind of can't compare it. And at this point, with all the water under the bridge that had nothing to do with Hogan and Kidman, the Flair Jarrett title switches, the debacles after debacle of bad creative on Nitro, bad creative on Thunder, bad creative on paper, the business, guys walking in, guys walking out, just the whole rut of it. By the time they got to Kidman Hogan, there wasn't a chance in hell that Hogan was bringing Kidman up. Now that's hindsight 2020, but that's the real reality. Hogan wasn't going to bring Kidman up regardless.
Guide Dog Manor says, how did Jeff find WCW creative different in his second run than his first? Of course, if we go back to 1996, you were, is he a horseman? Is he not? But at least then I feel like there was a clear leader. There's a clear boss, like the buck stops with Eric Bischoff for better or worse.
It was.
In this run, by the year 2000, that's not nearly as clear. It's a little muddy to say the least, no?
And here's kind of where massive difference, and I know you've covered it on this, we've covered it on this podcast and others, but when you had 96, 97, you had the buck stop with Eric, but right under Eric, you had the Taskmaster, you had Kevin Sullivan, and Kevin had his team under him, and you had cruiserweights, and you had tag title stories, and you had Jarrett and Flair horseman stories. And obviously the NWO was the overriding big picture story, but you had so many other things going on. Second run, I'll call it Russo and his team. Then Vince was only there 3 months and out. That's 12 or 13 weeks. What a clown show when you just kind of look at from, the day Vince came in to the day the company closed. How many bosses did they have in a year and a half? 3?
It's a lot. It feels like it was hot potato in this era. Hey, speaking of something else that was hot potato, take a look at this that we got served on social media. It's a photo of the shirt you wore to the ring that night. I guess you took it off and threw it. Lee Oliver says, I have a piece of that night. This is the actual ring worn shirt from Great American Bash 2000. How often do things like this pop up when you're doing appearances and autograph signings where somebody says, hey man, you threw this to the crowd, or hey man, I have your old so and so trunks or boots? And I
Wow.
know you hung on to most of that, but this is a cool find that he hung on to it. He framed it up real nice. I mean, it looks fantastic. Chat me up about that. How often does something like this happen?
I don't know. I would love to hear it, Lee. Maybe throw it on X. How did you acquire that? Where did you acquire that? That's cool. I mean, you know me, Conrad. I don't let go of a lot of things, but broken guitar and different folks want that. And but yeah, that's pretty cool. That's actually really cool. So I'd love to hear the story behind that. Just don't see that often in my career. You hear different things, and you obviously with social media, you see it more and more and more. The opportunity to get ring worn gear.
Well, we're going to get the story behind the story next week on Slammiversary 2009. It's King of
Wow.
the Mountain time, baby. Mick Foley is the TNA champion. And we know you're going to be in the King of the Mountain, of course, and so is AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. Also, we've got Team 3D and Beer Money heating up. King of the Mountain has an X Division match as well. And we got Angelina Love and Tara. We got Shane Douglas coming back and so much more. It's going to be your last match on a TNA pay-per-view until September of 2010. So tune in next week. And if you've got questions for us about Slammiversary 2009, the best place to ask is on our YouTube. That's at myworldpod.com. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. Jeff and I are going to be doing lots of bonus content that you can't find anywhere else at myworldpod.com.